Hey, what's happening, guys? Welcome to this video. Hope you guys are doing great today. This is Chris from VerrilloTrading, and we're going to do a video here talking about Jigsaw's footprint charts. So I use these footprint charts in my setup, and I used to use Sierra charts. I still use Sierra charts. However, in my main trading setup, I use these charts from Jigsaw, so that way I don't have to have two CQG logins on two separate platforms. So I'll kind of explain to you some of the dilly-dallies behind my setup, and also explain to you how I got these footprints to be working the way I need them to be. And again, guys, nothing is perfect, so just because it's working for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you, right? Because my method is different than yours, and what I look at is different than what you look at. So in this video, I'm going to explain to you all my settings. I'm going to show you a good default setting and things you got to watch out for when you're configuring these footprints, and things you got to watch out for when you're configuring the charts in general. So let's get to it here, guys. And if you find this content helpful, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. Here we go. So what you're looking at here is three separate charts for the equity index futures that I watch on a daily basis: the NASDAQ, the Russell 2000, and the S&P 500 futures. So I'm going to show you basically how I got these charts going in Jigsaw and how I set them up to see the data that I need to see in order to trade. So this right here, guys, this is a form of market context right here. It's a way of looking at order flow data and also the market context. So you guys who watch the channel here, you know what I look at. Just to give you a rundown of that, on my main screen, I'm looking at the depth of market, basically the immediate price action, the immediate order flow of the market. And on my other screen, I'm looking at more market context. And this is just to understand bigger picture stuff and where we've traded volume. So just to give you a picture here, on the left we have S&P futures, in the middle we've got the Russell, and on the right we've got the NASDAQ. Now, they're in no particular order here. I do look at all three because they are correlated. Sometimes the Russell has a strong effect on the S&P futures. NASDAQ also has a great effect on the S&P futures because the S&P futures is heavily weighted in tech. So again, on this screen I'm looking at market context. So again, the footprint charts are just a form of market context. As you can see there, I switch between my trading view chart to see a bigger context, and then when it comes down to looking at the order flow on a medium term basis, in this case 15-minute bars or 10-minute bars or whatever works for you. Some traders use range charts, point and figure. At the end of the day, you're always looking at the same data. It's all about how you're choosing to display that data, and that's why I would encourage you that if you're new to order flow trading, if you're new to footprint charts, definitely try out Sierra charts and play with it a lot and learn about many different ways that you can display the same data. Because a lot of what trading is being able to analyze data in real time and react to it and make decisions based on it. So if you're displaying the data in a way that you don't respond to it, that's not going to work for you. So you want to make sure you know what you're looking at all times, and that's why I think Sierra chart is a great platform for newer traders getting into order flow to learn about how to display order flow on a chart and the various ways that you can do that. So when I first started using Sierra chart, you guys saw me, I was experimenting with the point and figure charts. I was putting footprints in ranges and all that stuff. And I realized that really, at the end of the day, I didn't really need all of that specific stuff. All I really needed the footprints for was for a specific thing that I've been able to see now using these charts. That's why I switched over to the Jigsaw charts. So a lot of you probably have tried using the Jigsaw charts and you're like, wow, these things are really glitchy and I've had a lot of problems using them. And you're absolutely right, because when they released these charts, there was a lot of problems with them. But the good thing is now a lot of those problems are fixed, and I would say they're in working order. I've been able to use them now consistently for at least 2-3 months, and they've been working fine. So when they originally came out, I tried to use them, and that's the whole reason why I switched to Sierra charts for a short time, because they were not working correctly. So now that they're working correctly, I'm using them, and in my opinion, they're just fine for what I need to see here. So what I'm going to do now is do a very basic rundown of how to get one of these charts on your screen, and then I'm going to show you the settings I've put in on these two charts, and I'll show you again what my settings are on the S&P charts. But this one, I basically just set it up today in about 5 minutes. And it's pretty much close to the default settings, but it does the job for me anyways. I might tweak it a little more, but really what I'm concerned with more is these two markets, because these are the markets that I trade in the most. I look at the S&P futures more for correlation than anything. All right, so we'll go to the first screen, and the first thing you need to do is have a workspace open. In this case, I have a workspace open. It's called Chart, and it has some of these tools displayed on my screen as well. So you guys know that you can hide your workspace and make it reappear in Jigsaw at any time. So first thing you need is, of course, a workspace. The next thing you need to do is open a chart. So what we're going to do here is go to our main Jigsaw window, and we're going to click on Chart, which is this icon right here. And you're going to click on it, and it's going to say Jigsaw low time frame charting is now production release. New time frames and chart types are in development. All right, so we've clicked on chart and now we're going to open a chart. Make sure you've selected your correct data feed. Now you choose the symbol. So let's do NASDAQ futures just for this example. We'll choose a September contract and hit OK. So now we're going to open up a chart here, and this is the default that we're going to get, a 30-minute candle chart. One thing you guys need to know about Jigsaw's charts is that you can't save preset charts. The only way you can save presets is by saving it in your workspace, and then you can open your workspace from another location. So that's the only way to save your charts, is to configure them the way you want them, then save your workspace, and they're always gonna stay the same. There's no way to save individual charts. That's what I meant. So you can see here that there's a number of charts here that you can choose from. However, at this point in time, not all of these are in working order. So you will notice if you try to use range bars or point and figure, they're not going to be working. We're going to stick with the ones that are working right now. And I personally use another platform for my range bar charts anyways. I use TradingView. So we're going to click on JT footprint here, and I'm going to select a 30-minute chart just for the sake of this example. Actually, let's just make it 15 just to match my other chart here. And now you're gonna see there's a lot of other settings you can choose from here, but what we're gonna do is actually hit apply to start with, and we're gonna see what this chart looks like to start. So you're gonna see this type of message, order flow data loading, and if you've never loaded the data before, just let it load in. Sometimes you'll need to load about 5 days worth of data, so it'll take about 30 seconds to load sometimes. So now we can see that we've got this order flow data in here, all right? Now, by default, there's this tilt feature on, and I personally don't like it at all. I always turn it off. So you can see very clearly that when you open one of these footprints, they're not ready to use out of the box. And that's part of the reason why I'm making this video for you guys. So I made a little document here showcasing some of these settings and indicators that I use on the Jigsaw footprint charts. I'm gonna show you the document as well as go through the settings with you one by one here. So let's start with it here. By no means are these settings perfect settings. They're just sort of a template that I created for colors and for the width of the bars that worked for me for this NASDAQ. But I'm actually gonna try to explain to you each one of these settings so that you can adjust them the way you like it. Let's go ahead and click on the wrench icon and go to data and chart type. So now we're back into the settings menu here. You can choose to load more data. I usually keep this to 5 because my footprint charts are more for midterm analysis, and I use my other platform for larger perspective analysis. Very rarely am I gonna go in my footprint and look at data from 3-4 days ago. Although you can do that if you're just getting acquainted with footprint charts. That is actually a good thing to do. But once you get used to looking at them, I don't think you really need to load a lot more data than that. Let's keep going. So show extended hours, you do want that on. Flip y-axis, this is off by default, and I don't think this is very relevant. Next setting is session breaks. I do keep this on just to show where the sessions are opening and closing. So you can see right there, that green dotted line is indicating the close of the CME exchange at 5 p.m. Eastern. The next settings are related to the font size and the scale font size. So you can see I have my scale font size here at 15, which is pretty much close to the default setting, so it's not a huge deal. The font size, this one will make a difference if you're looking at bars with the numbers on them. So you can see the default is 16, so I've set mine to 10. Now I'm actually gonna apply that, and you're going to see that the text on each bar is actually a little bit smaller, and I think it's actually allowing more vertical space on the chart. So you would have to try it yourself, but let's try setting it to 6 and see what happens. So there you go. So when you make the text smaller, apparently it's adding more vertical space to your chart. So apparently a lower font size might be beneficial for thinner markets. So I'll set it back to 10, and there we go, it's changed again. Show background, this is not very useful, but look what it does, it adds a background to the chart. I keep it off personally. And then we have this tilt mode that's on by default. I turn it off personally. Show the histogram, you do want to show the histogram. The scope of the histogram should always be set to the bar. Histogram diagonal, I have not played with this, and it's off by default. It has not made a difference for me at all. Next settings here, histogram style. There's 3 styles you can choose from. For me, I just keep it to volume profile, as that is pretty much all I need to see on my chart. So volume profile, histogram percent. Now this is an important setting here. What this is actually the width of each bar on the chart. So you can see default it's set to 100. If you set this higher, each bar is going to take up more horizontal space on the chart. So I'm gonna set that to 160 and I'll apply it, and you'll see how the bars get a little thicker, all right? I found that to be a decent setting for me. The next is the alignment of these profiles. Keeping it to the left is fine for me. Then showing the numbers. I personally deactivate the numbers on thinner markets like NASDAQ and Russell. I prefer to have them on thicker markets like S&P or bonds. which I don't trade. Next is highlighting the opening and closing price of these bars. I like to keep that on just to give yourself an idea of where these bars have traded, because at the end of the day, these bars are the same as the candlestick bars, except that you're seeing the volume at price data for those bars. Highlighting the open and close is fine. It's not noisy information, so I'll keep it on my chart for that. Okay, the next two settings are relating to imbalances. Now, what an imbalance is, I'll try to explain to you very simply. It's at one price point, an imbalance of volume done on the bid versus on the offer. So you can see here on this ES chart that there is some yellow highlights there. Those are the imbalances being highlighted on the chart. And they're being highlighted based on the setting that I selected. So on that chart, I believe the imbalance percentage setting was set to 160, meaning that as soon as the volume on the bid or the offer exceeds 160% of the volume on the other side, then it will highlight that as being an imbalance. So for example, here you had 1,938 on the offer at 42.80 on this bar here at 4 o'clock. And on the bid, you had 3,831 contracts. The amount of contracts traded on the bid is more than 160% bigger than the volume on the offer. Therefore, that is highlighted as an imbalance. I hope I explained that clear enough. So basically, the lower you set this imbalance percentage, the more yellow highlights you're gonna get on your chart. So you can play with that to see what is an optimal setting for your market. I personally don't use it right now as it's not really relevant to my way of trading currently. So the next setting is show candles. We keep that on. And that's pretty much all the settings we have in regards to the footprint itself. Next is just the colors. So you can play with the colors a lot. If you don't like the default colors, I found a certain green color here that I like that allows me to see the data properly. And by the way, we are going to cover my indicators here. I only have 3 indicators on this chart, and we're going to cover those towards the end of this video here. So stick around, guys. If you're enjoying this, smash the like, please, because it helps the channel a lot. All right, so if you turn the background off, these first 2 colors here are irrelevant. Now, these 2 settings, bullish histogram color and bearish histogram color, that's actually the color of the bars. So actually, one of the first questions I asked to a mentor was, what do you think about buy and sell volume versus just looking at total volume? And he told me this: in a lot of cases, buy and sell volume is pretty much irrelevant. All you really care about is where the volume took place. And after a while of trading, I found this to be true. So as you saw on my other chart, I keep these to the same color. And what that color is this one right here, Meta Green. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy and paste that color into these in Jigsaw. So we click on the color, drop down menu, more colors. Then we'll paste the color into that number box right there. And we'll do it for both of them. Next would be the color of the numbers. So I did have another color for the numbers that I found was good, but since the numbers are turned off here, we don't need to really worry about that. Next is the color of the imbalances. If you want to highlight them different than yellow, you change that color. Next, we have the color of the opening box and the color of the closing box. I leave these set to default as they don't really give me a lot of info in my trading anyways. It's really just a small piece of information, so it's not very relevant. Candle up color and candle down color. This is not relevant unless you're using another kind of chart. And we're gonna apply that and see what the footprint looks like. And you can see it looks pretty much like the footprint I have on my other screen here, all right? And we can see our data pretty clear. At least I find it great. So now when it comes to moving around this chart, especially if you're trading a thinner market, there's a number of things you gotta be aware of. The first thing is when you double click on the price axis, it's going to bring the chart back to default. Oftentimes when I'm looking at NQ, I always make the vertical scale smaller like that. And I'll zoom out a little bit to get either more bars or less bars on my screen. You can also drag on the bottom scale or on the right scale to change that around as you wish. As you can see on my other screen here, I'm only displaying about 3, 4, 5 bars worth of footprint activity normally when I'm trading. All right, so let's cover some of the indicators on the chart now. I'll show you exactly the indicators that I have on my chart. And I basically have 3 of them. So I've got a volume profile, which is a composite profile of the visible range on this chart. So this profile is only encompassing the volume that is being displayed here. So I'm just looking at the most recent volume basically. If I want to see more volume than that, I'm going to look at my other chart, which is showing me the bigger picture of the market. These charts are not for looking at bigger picture. They're just for looking at order flow data, basically the data that occurred on my depth of market but I wasn't looking at my depth of market and I want to catch up and see what happened. That's how I use the footprint. So again, that is my volume profile, and it's only accounting for the data that's being displayed in the window of the chart. And you're going to see that if I maximize this window, all of a sudden the volume profile changed, right? Because now there's more data on my chart. I'll minimize the window again, and you'll see that the volume profile has now changed again to show whatever data is in the window of your chart. And I'll prove that just by moving the bars. You see that? The next indicator would be down at the bottom here, which is the footprint stats, just showing total volume and delta for each of these bars. And the last indicator is just going to be the volume weighted average price, which I have on the chart somewhere. Yeah, there it is down there. That's just an indicator that a lot of traders look at. So I put it on there as well. It kind of plays into crowd psychology a little bit. So that's why I keep it there. So now let's go back here and I'll show you how I set up these indicators. So we click on the wrench to start. Then we go to indicators. Now we got footprint stats. Let's add this one first. So we'll click on add. Now this is what you're gonna get in the menu. What I do is I turn buy volume off, I turn off sell volume, and I turn off cumulative delta, and then I hit apply. And that is exactly the indicator that I have going on here. I don't mess with the colors, I don't have time for that. Again, I'll go to indicators, then let's add a volume profile. So we're gonna add JT volume profiles, hit add, and the default is profile by selectable, meaning that it actually will allow you to select a portion on the chart and create a volume profile for that. And that's also an indicator I saw in TradingView. It's pretty interesting. However, that's not the profile I use. So what I'll do is I'll click on this and change it to composite, and it's composite by visible, meaning only the bars that are visible on my chart. Next, there's going to be a few settings here relating to this volume profile. The value area is set to 68 by default, and I think this is a reasonable setting. Next, we have the profile width. This is by default set to 80. In my opinion, it's too big. So look, I'll hit apply, and you're going to see that the profile is taking up a lot of space on the chart here. One other thing is that sometimes when you load an indicator into Jigsaw, you're going to notice a little box that appears here, and I think this is just a little glitch in the chart. So what you're going to do is just X that out, and it'll bring it back to normal. So you can see, looking at the volume profile here, it's pretty much too big for the chart. So I'm going to lower that profile width down to 40. That's pretty much what I have it at. And you're going to see that it's more reasonable there. And you're going to see that that box appeared another time here. And I don't really know what this box is, to be honest with you, but I'm going to exit out another time. Other settings you can play with here: profile opacity set to 100 by default. And then we have show value area. Value area is set to 68, meaning that it's going to show you a value area of 68% of the volume being displayed on your screen. So that means that for these bars being displayed here, 68% of the volume exists between this area and that area right there. That's all it means right there. So you can choose to show that or not. I like to keep it on because it gives me a good idea of where the market has been most recently valued. Show value price lines, those are the lines being displayed. Show value area, I keep it on because as you can see, there's a slightly different color between the two profiles. If you want to change the colors, you can do them there. I did have another color that was a slightly brighter volume profile, and it's this one right here. So I'm going to copy that and paste it into value area color, and you're going to see that it's a slightly lighter colored volume profile. So some of you might like that one a little bit better, and that's pretty much it. The last indicator was the view app, so we'll scroll down to the bottom here of these indicators, click on view app, add it. No standard deviations there, and just hit apply, and we'll get the view app. And again, you're always getting this sort of little box that appears here. It's kind of weird, so just exit out, and that's the same story. So there's a couple little doodads and other bells and whistles in these charts here. I often turn on the crosshair. This is I like having a crosshair on the chart. You can also play with the drawing tools a little bit. I don't really use the drawings too much, and really I don't find I need them anyways because I draw on my other charts anyways. I find this one is just to get an idea of the shorter term context of the market. So I try to keep them clean. A lot of this stuff is personal preference, and I know a lot of you guys are gonna say, man, I can't handle these charts. They're just really weird. There's like weird glitches here and there. I just can't use them. So guys, I mean, I'm not telling you to use them. I'm just showing you what has worked for me. For any of you guys who are potentially tired of using another platform and you're using Jigsaw and you wanna make good use of their charts. You can also turn the info box on if you want to see extra data about these bars, the open, the low, and the volume. Again, I don't use this because I can see the volume and delta near the bottom. Overall, guys, these charts are far from perfect. I think they still do need a lot of work when it comes to their overall usability and user friendliness and the mobility of the charts as well. Right now, they fulfill my needs for trading, so I'm not complaining personally. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I would encourage you guys, if you're learning about order flow trading, try Sierra charts, play with all their charts, get comfortable with different ways of looking at order flow data, and then take out all the crap and simplify it. And that's what I did, and I'm comfortable with this setup right now for seeing a basic footprint of some 10-minute context. So that's kind of how I use them, guys. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. I really appreciate you guys always, and take care. Bye.